off. So one last event, and then we'll go into multiplayer to fill in the rest of the time. Let's see. Final Fantasy 6 event. I've definitely talked a lot about this, but this will be the official event preview. New Legend Materia. So, Legend Materia is something that I talked about very recently in a discussion because it's something that everyone should be looking into planning for the future immediately. It is definitely something that you need to plan for because of the scarcity of motes. And this will be the first event where we get Legend Materia included on banners. But if this actually launches on Thursday, which it very well might, then it will be our first exposure to Legend Materia at all. So let's go into that right now. We have Sabin, who gets a fire elemental damage up. That's weird. Medium chance to dual cast fire elemental abilities. That's actually a good LM2, so go Sabin. And Sabin's LMR, remember, the LM1 and LM2 are opened by motes, while the third Legend Materia is learned from a relic that appears on the banner. See how it says relic here? And we'll see that when we get to the banner. Attack increases with every use of monk ability. Is fine. I'd probably prefer to use the first two, though. So his LMR is not searchable because you can equip two Legend Materia at once, and they're limited to only you, so only he can equip these once he gets access to them. So you gotta pick two, and then the other one is something you don't have to worry about. And in this case, I think this would be his worst because attack increases aren't as valuable as damage increases. So next we have Celeste. We have small spellblade damage up, good. Celeste gets a unique Legend Materia here that gives her a plus 50% bonus in soul break generation when hitting weakness. So normally when you hit weakness, you already get plus 50% soul break points. With this record materia, that means she gets plus 100%, which means she will get twice the soul break generation for any ability used that hits weakness. And this is one of the things that really helps out Celeste, because a problem with her is with no life siphon or wrath access, she becomes a character that has trouble generating soul break, which means if you were to use her burst soul break too, which we'll see on the banners, you would want to use Mako Might on her, or Dr. Mara's Teachings, either one of those. However, with this, you don't have to worry about that as much, because you can start her off in the fight using no soul break and just use like 3 spell blades and have yourself enough soul break to be able to use her burst, or whatever else you want to use. So that helps her out a lot and fills in the gap, because not having life siphon has traditionally been a very bad thing for her. And Celeste, her LMR, unlike Sabin, is actually very valuable. With a small chance to dual cast Spellblade abilities, that small chance is 25%. Just says small, but that's actually quite high. And it's a very, very important part of what makes Celeste a intermediate to above average damaging character. Celeste is a weird character with a lot of coverage. And really, I do feel like this LMR is necessary for her, unfortunately. Yeah, it does have plus LM, but I'll get to that. That's the relic itself. We'll get to that on the banners. Realm gets a relic only. They didn't go into her all of her Legend Materia, but I'll do that now. We have the means to cover their bases. Realm also gets an LM1, LM2, and the LMR on the banner. Realm 1 is white abilities for 15% more HP. That's actually a good Legend Materia. The second one is reduces damage taken by all elements by 15%. Jury's still out on this one. I want to ask some questions around. If I was under the impression that this did not stack with resistance accessories and the like. However, if it does, that would make this a fairly valuable Legend Materia, because that's a pretty high damage reduction just to have passively. However, definitely think at least at first glance, the best Legend Materia she has available to her are the first one and the last one. The last one, which comes on the Relic, is 25% chance to Magic Blink 1 to the target after using a single target white magic ability that restores HP on an ally. That is a mouthful, but what that means is every time you use the Ikiraja or her first burst command, she has a 25% chance of just granting Magic Blink to them, which is really nice. Huge bonus, it can probably swing a fight if it procs at the right times. However, Realm overall has a weaker Legend Materia, I believe, and doesn't have to be invested in to be as good as you want her to be. So this isn't that much of a priority, either getting the Relic or moding her up for all of this anyway. So, though I want to use Realm, I probably won't bother with any of this, and because I'm pulling on the banner, I will use this if I get it, and that's that. And Terra gets a relic, and we'll go over her too because they didn't show hers. We have increased fire damage dealt, and we get one of our... Yeah, this will be the first instance where we get a Trance Legend Materia. I'll go into that more in a second. The Legend Materia Relic appears on the second banner along with Sabin's. Is 25% chance to dual cast fire abilities. Very important for Terra. It just stinks that it's on the second banner. So these are two good Legend Materia. And for our first Trance Materia, we get what happens when she falls below HP 20%. She actually goes through a visual transformation on screen into her Espa Terra form from Final Fantasy VI, and replenishes her health up to maximum, and gets a status. And the status is all stats except for speed plus 20% and a ×2 cast speed multiplier. Very powerful. Lasts 25 seconds, and this can only happen once per fight. 25 seconds. However, for those 25 seconds, she will be very powerful. And though it's a little counterintuitive, you can always just attack Terra yourself if you want to trigger this, if you want to get an actual timing down. I'd use something like Life Siphon, because it would be a weaker ability that you'd want to, use anyway for somebody else when you have, other stronger abilities that you obviously wouldn't want to one-hit kill Terra with. Life Siphon would probably be the safest way to do it. Right. Chances are characters whose BSB you're pulling on also have LMR on that banner. And that's an unfortunate truth about Terra, is the second banner of the event that has Terra's LMR on it does not have Terra things on it. Or at least the powerful things that Terra has. And that's where Terra falls behind. You want to have her LMR because it's a 25% chance to dual cast. But you don't want to pull on that banner if you want to build up Terra. They're forcing you into a bad situation. So, no, I will not talk about Legend Materia. I did that already. So let's go to the banners. We have Realm's USB, which is actually an excellent USB. One of the best available to healers, with the 0 cast time Curaga Medica, the Stone Skin 30% buff, and Party Power Chain. This is what we refer to as instacast, but power chain's a good word for it because that is the word. That is the ability that we use that gives the same status. And party power chain is a very, very powerful thing because there will be eventually be two modes added to the game for like battle difficulty that can take really, really good can make use of this very well. And one would be full throttle, in which you have a lot of soul break available to you in the beginning of the fight. And with soul breaks having such high cast times, and the way full throttle works is because everybody in the party starts out with 3 soul breaks. It means how they balance the fight means it's a race. It really is. You go full throttle and so does the boss. So the faster that you're able to get everything activated and working, the better. So if you have a character that can grant instacast to your party, then the better off you are, because you want to get that battle over as soon as possible. And that's what makes this one of the best healer USBs in the game. So very, very powerful hit at the top of the banner. Next up, we have Celeste Ragnarok, or Triumphant Blade. Much talked about the Celeste BSB2 for a very long time, even in global. Our 2 forms of Grand Cross have been the Celeste Indomitable Blade and the Grand Cross for XDeath. And what Grand Cross is a mage taunt that draws all black and white magic abilities to the caster and absorbs them for ability uses. And is, because of its uniqueness, comes in handy in a variety of places, and when it does come in handy, it's generally extremely powerful for your team. So although Celeste isn't a glowing example of a damage dealer, the utility and skill set and her high ability to exploit vulnerabilities makes this into a powerful burst. Even though you're probably not looking to it for a primary source of damage dealing. However, it will hold its own. It's just not going to contend with the highest DPS characters in the game, but that's okay because it can do respectable. It's single target ice only on cast, and if you consider the Grand Cross the N element entry, that would mean that the attack and defense plus 30% to self is a bonus, and that's another neat little benefit to this burst, is that it's a higher value than usual entry. And this is a important thing for Celeste because with the way she works is you're going to want her on a team, and sometimes the teams you're going to want her on are going to be for fights that favor mages. So if you have this and her second command, which is a Dark Bargain command, that means with the ability to double buff her attack by herself, that makes her viable on for use on mage teams. That's a not oft talked about benefit to this burst, because you are going to want to put her on mage teams sometimes. And then moving on to the other command of hers. Well, first of all, we have the single target and AoE. AoE is important here because that gives her the ability to do Holy and Ice in an AoE. I would say the Ice is more valuable because at least for Holy you have Aegis Strike, but as far as I know, for a little while at least, there will not be an array of effect Ice that isn't available to summoners in a 3-star Shiva or Valigar Amanda 6-star. But at one point, Spellblade does get access to a 5-star Ice. It's basically a clone of Tornado Strike. So low damage, but at least it's area of effect. So this is a really good area of effect ability, and definitely means that since you have a Holy area of effect, you don't have to give her Aegis Strike, which is nice. You can leave that to knights that use it better, like Agrius and Beatrix. Anyway, we have attack 4 times single target, Holy Ice physical, and Spellblade abilities do plus 15% damage for 2 turns. If you've noticed a trend with their Legend Materia and with this, everything is stacking towards her doing good damage with her Spellblade abilities. So she does increased Spellblade generation with hitting vulnerability. She does has a chance to dual cast Spellblade with her LMR, and she gets Spellblade abilities plus 15% for 2 turns. I don't feel all that hot about the 2 turns. I think that's just kind of misleading in how powerful it is, because if you're attacking area of effect, you are losing damage by using this for the 15% and then using this. So you don't want to alternate these. If you're attacking Holy or Ice vulnerable, then what else are you going to use except for the first command? So, and the 2 turns doesn't stack, so it'll just refresh the 2 turns after every 1 use you have of it. So I don't really understand what the 2 is for. So, I don't know. It's not really that important. But just know that after first cast, you're going to be doing a lot more damage with this. So this is a very powerful burst. Does respectable, above average damage, and has some insane utility that you just simply can't find elsewhere, except if your name is XDef. Next up, we have Mog's Burst Soulbreak. Love Serenade, which is a great animation that grants party haste and magic mind 30%. This is the same soul break that Sarah gets, called Endless Blessings. However, it comes in a burst mode. And obviously, because of stuff like Onion Knight, we look to the buffing Haskas, and we look to the burst mode stuff that you can use on them. And that makes this if the burst commands are good, that makes this a great thing to summon as an RW or to have native, because Mog is a great support. And what we see here is Mog gets an attack command that gives Kiragai regen. This is the same thing that Sarah got on her Excellent Burst. So that's an interesting thing to have. Mog has a respectable mind, so he can assist at the start of the fight with healing, which is a very important thing. Sometimes before you get all your defenses up, the start of fights can be dodgy. And sometimes, if you want to use this, you can actually get a little greedy at the start of fights because you have extra healing. And being able to get greedy at the start of fights will benefit you out later on in fights, so that's nice. And then, playing into his capacity as a real support, a buffing dancer, just all over the place support, he has a single target magic breakdown, which is, it's fine. What this allows him to do is very similar to how I evaluated Echo's Burst earlier. Is having this as part of a command means he can carry multi-break and power breakdown, or multi-break and exhausting polka, I believe it's called, as his dance abilities, and he can debuff attack, magic, and the full complement with the multi-break. So he becomes a very effective support, as well as a strong off healer because of his zero cast on Kirago. So this is probably at release the best burst that you can bring onto a mage team, and it is on a great character in Mog. So this is where we start to move away from Onion Knight being the best Heiska for most situations, because we get other options that fulfill like better needs elsewhere. So Onion Knight's always going to be relevant because of his hybrid potential, but for strictly from rage purposes, it's probably going to be the best burst that you can have. Third, we have Cella's Old Burst Soul Break. The first relic on the banner that has plus damage boost. Like I said for a previous event really recently, these swords aren't that valuable anymore because of how common 6-star native. I just realized for this entire time I've had I didn't mute my emulator, so it's been doing that bloop thing. I don't know if anyone called that out, but I apologize. It just, it washes over me and I don't even hear it anymore. So continuing on with Celes, it's not that great of a relic anymore. However, maybe it is. I don't know. We have a good burst soul break and a good thing to flesh out Celeste, because there will be times when you want to use Celeste, but Grand Cross won't be all that useful, or you're generating so much soul break because of your second Ledger Materia that you have the ability to cast 2 soul breaks. This is going to be useful. Obviously not as useful as a BSB2, but you will find uses for this sometimes. That party buff can be valuable, and so can Unholy. The burst commands themselves are interesting, because here you get a fire Spellblade. So she gets the ability to be a good damage dealer versus a fire vulnerability, because she gets 4 times single target against fire here. Where on her BSB1, she's limited to Holy Ice, Holy Ice, Holy Ice on her second command. But this opens up her fire potential, so you don't have to rely on the 5-star fire Spellblade, which is only 2 hits. So that is an interesting part of Celes' expanded kit. Next we move on to the 2 Legend Materia relics. First off is Realms. We already went over the single target magic blink. The hat itself is minor resistance to Salience, which isn't bad because status resistance is stack, and I actually like to see that on caster armor. So that's not a bad relic. Celeste, we have her 25% chance to dual cast Spellblade abilities. Definitely a very, very valuable relic on this banner, because it's part of what makes Celes so damn good. And you'd definitely be shedding a few tears if you were unable to get one of these. They definitely go together. The cloak itself is plus holy damage, so it's obviously a nice armor for her to have. If you don't have a lot of plus holy armor at the moment. Next we have Mog's probably the best animation in the game, Earth Blues. It is a plus earth damage instrument. If you want to think about the amount of people that can actually make use of that, go right ahead, but it's not many. But it is an interesting thing that is plus earth damage. And it at least does earth damage, so you can take advantage of that. But it's white magic damage, and is a party or a multi-target enemy debuff of attack and defense minus 50%. This is an excellent Super Soul Break. So already we've moved into the 2% portion of the banner, and we've got ourselves an excellent Super Soul Break. So like that, and it's on Mog, an excellent character on a banner that plays into Mog's strengths. So this is exactly what we always like to see on a banner, is a good Super Soul Break for a character that has a good high-end Soul Break for him on here. Next up, we have 2 Soul Breaks for Setzer, which is red card, which is not all that great because it's just full breakdown. Full breakdown works well in a burst situation, but not that good in a Super Soul Break. It's fine if you need support things for Final Fantasy VI. However, with Mog having 2 things here, while Setzer is probably overall a better support than Mog, it's definitely not because of these 2 relics. And if we're talking about pulling on this banner alone, with this and this, Mog is definitely the better support here. So these are kind of big misses, unfortunately. However, the second Soul Break is the better of the 2, where at least it's random single target, good in this scenario since you're applying a debuff of attack and resistance minus 40%. That's a decent stacking attack debuff, which is good to see. And last but not least, we have the 1%er at the bottom of the banner, Bushido Sky, which is actually a good Super Soul Break, believe it or not, for Cyan, because it does Super Soul Break single target damage and gives party magic blink. This is always going to be a valuable Sid mission type Soul Break. This is a very good banner. We have 2 misses, and they may not even be misses depending on what you need in the realm. But yeah, I mean, if this is the two worst things that you can find on the banner, then it's an excellent banner. So we have, if I was evaluating this banner like I would normally do, I would say this is a win, 1%, win 2%, win 3%, win 4%, win 5%, win 6%, 6%, win 7, 8, and win 9. That's a good banner. 9% out of 14. Oh, wait a second. It's probably not that. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so this is not a 1%. I think this is this banner format is unique. It's not supposed to work like this. So Science Bushido Sky would be at a 2%. Since it's supposed to add up to 14, where you got 1% from here up, and then 2 from here down. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, okay, sure. Good banner, really good banner. Moving on, we have second banner on the fest. Not fest, God. This it may as well be a festival for some of us because I know a lot of people are going to be planning on pulling on that banner 1. But banner 2, we have Sabin's OSB. Is fair. It's a fair OSB because the multiplier increases when you're hitting weakness or imperil, which is one of the better conditionals. However, it's on Sabin. Remember what I said about OSBs. You want your OSB is the garnish, and you want it to be a good character, and then add the OSB on top. It doesn't work, unfortunately, because Sabin isn't that good of a character. Moving on, we have General Leo, who gets a light armor plus holy damage light armor. So, I mean, same type of relic as Celeste from the previous banner. Burst Soul Break, 8 single target holy earth. Okay. Party attack resistance plus 30%. Okay. It's good so far. Like it. And his commands, already don't really like them because of the 2 single target and the 2 AoE. However, Sentinel is valuable. And Self-Quick Cast Knight 2. So how I view this would be a kind of half-assed Guardbringer, I guess. Because this all goes together with that. We have Quick Cast Knight 2, which is better. It makes the 2 single target not as bad. So you could cast this, and then cast Sentinel at Quick Cast speed. That would use your first charge of Quick Cast Knight. Then recast this at Quick Cast. That would use the last. It would refresh you up to 2. And then you cast Guardbringer using the Quick Cast Knight. And then you'd alternate with this and Guardbringer. However, that's a lot of setup in your burst commands before you start using Guardbringer. So, honestly, you could probably just use this ability and completely forget this. And start Guardbringer immediately after using this command once. However, if maybe you want to use this if you have low hones on your Guardbringer and you want to extend them a little bit. So you could draw out the process a little bit by alternating this, then this, then this. Then Guardbringer, then you'd have one more attack during your burst, and you could cast this again. I don't know. It's an okay burst. It's passable. Nothing special. Let's see, we got Strago's burst. Talked about that earlier here. Very good. Strago's cloak itself is small water damage up. It is light armor. And it is 7 AoE, water, wind, earth. This is very important. Water, wind, earth, and water burst mode. Take a look at the burst commands. 4 times single target water, earth, magic damage, and random ally just gains magic blink for free. That's a pretty good command by itself. And it allows him to hit earth if you want to. I don't know. That's probably not what you're looking for from this. I'd probably use this command versus a water vulnerable boss and just get the magic blinks from it. This is really the huge value of this burst, though, is the 2x single target water wind piercing magic damage. At this point, you love the fact that it is both water and wind, because this will be an awesome burst commands versus, just basically anything that is weak to water or wind, because of the way piercing damage works and how plus damage increases are so valuable. And remember we were talking about the Golem Magicite dungeon earlier? This is actually probably one of the most powerful bursts, even though it's N water. Golem is a wind weak. You use this versus Golem. Because of his gigantic resistance, you'd probably be doing more damage with this than you would be with anything else. This is just one of the sneaky better bursts in the entire game. And it's one of those things that just is resistant to power creep, because that piercing damage is just that interesting and important. So Strago actually bursts on the scene with a nice burst. Sabin's God Hand, BSB, 7 to single target. Yeah, I remember this. We had this in the previous Final Fantasy VI event. It does increase the amounts of damage, scaling with your attack. However, even the 10 is only a 7.0 multiplier, which is higher than the usual for an Endfire, because remember, Endfire entries usually pay a tax in their multiplier, because they don't want to make it too high. Since on a recast, because of the Endfire status, you get plus 80% damage. So you get a 7.0 multiplier at 10 single target attacks, which would make this a fairly powerful burst on recast. However, because of the way Magicite dungeons work and how you want to finish them as fast as possible, yeah, not really feeling this. I mean, it turns into an OSB-ish. Not really. It's only a 7.0 to what I believe is a 12.75. I would be fine with that if you say you start off the fight and you cast this and you get up and you're using it and you can recast it for, pseudo OSB damage. However, it is on the same banner as his OSB. I'd just rather use that in that place instead. The commands are 4x single target fire, self attack and defense plus 10%, max 8. So it's an iterative command that keeps on stacking itself. The unfortunate drawback to this is there becomes a point in the game called the attacks off cap, where you get diminishing returns for increase in attack. And while this can get up to a fairly decent amount of attack, it takes a while for it to be worth what you're putting into it. And it's definitely meant to be used with the recast to get you your 10 hits. But it's less than OSB level, and you have 2x AoE fire, which is fine, because I don't think he'll have access to anything ever that gives him area of effect fire damage. It's a fine burst, but I probably put it in the same category as Leo's. It's just okay. Definitely nothing on this banner right now that's on the same level as this. In comparison, as for the bursts here, we have excellent and excellent, and pretty damn good. Yeah. So, all right. Next, and this is really the unfortunate part of this banner, is Terra's Legend Materia is here, even though there's nothing for Terra on this banner. So if you are a fan of Terra, this is exploitation, or waifu exploitation at its finest, which sucks. Really sucks. Because if you want Terra to be damn good, you're going to want to pull for her here, as well as another banner, which would be probably Banner 4 in the Extreme Fest. It has her USB on it, with the 25% chance to dual cast fire damage abilities here, and then something that relies so heavily on fire damage abilities with her USB. It just, This is an asshole move by DNA for Terra lovers, and she's a well-loved character, so that's a lot of people that are negatively affected by this. Next up, we have Sabins. We have increased attack per use of monk abilities to a large amount. Again, increasing his attack. When you consider that his burst is already increasing your attack, it reduces the effectiveness of stuff like this because you're going to be annihilating the soft cap. In which case, a lot of this attack isn't even as powerful as it should be. I believe, though, it is a 50% top end? Up to 34%? Never mind. And 2% each? Oh, God. That Elamar is actually terrible. So, God, that is a landmine. Sabin's 2 opening legend material are definitely much better than this. 35% chance to dual cast fire, and fire damage increased by 10%. So much better. So much better. Strago's Whale Whisker, we have Protect Shell, resistance plus 100%. It's an okay Sid mission thing. I'd like it for Strago if I got his burst, because it'd be a neat little complementary piece. You don't mind seeing Protect and Shell on characters like that, because in like Full Throttle, that allows you to cast something like this and save yourself not only turns, but ability slots on everyone in the party. So this is actually a good thing for Strago as a Full Throttle character. And Sabin, his Soul Spiral is actually a good Super Soul Break. 40% Medica, Party Asuna. That has some interesting benefits at many different times. And it's not like the 40% Medica and Defense 100% to parties are too shabby. This is actually a really good Super Soul Break. A lot of people like myself may have this already from pulling on one of the better banners from the last festival. But if you don't, this is actually pretty good. Sabin's Tiger Fang, Party Blink. That's not great. Imperial Highblade for General Leo. This is a pretty good Imperial Holy. You would just bring him to a Holy team. Use Life Siphon, Imperial Holy, Life Siphon until you do it again, and then Life Siphon until you do it again. Ad Infinium. And yep, that'd be pretty decent. Oh, notice am I going crazy? Yeah, I'm going crazy. Never mind. So how do I feel about this banner? For the top end, we have one thing that I like, which would be Strago's Burst, out of 4. The Legend Materia, we got a very big hit and a very big miss. Unfortunately, the very big hit synergizes with nothing on the banner, so you would immediately be pulling on this banner to chase, and that's never a situation you want to be in. Low end of the banner isn't bad. We have complementary with something, one of the better on the high end. This is good, and it's thematic, even though Sabin's not that great of a character. That's bad. Plus 10 attack. And that's okay. Also thematic. So I just don't understand what she's doing here. Could have given us Terra someplace much better. And the problem with Legend Materia is they occur so rarely that this is basically the place to get this for a very long time. So, unless you're a Terra fanatic, this banner is probably not that good. I don't blame you for pulling on it, though, because at least if you're pulling for Terra, you do have the chance to get Strago's stuff. Okay. Ooh. Any questions? This is Chase Terra and Strago banner. This banner is awesome.